Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, because I have absolutely no idea when people are watching this video. But I made this video today because everyone got their $1,200 checks from Uncle Donnie in the mail. And for those of you who want to invest their money into a potential business venture, or who have always had dreams of starting a YouTube channel or creating content, you now have the means to do that. So for those of you who don't necessarily need that check to pay the bills and you want to invest in something else, this video is for you, and ideally what camera it is that you guys should buy, right? And that's the big question. Anytime someone's interested in a camera, they jump on YouTube, they jump on Best Buy, they jump on Walmart or Office Depot or any of these sites, and they're looking, and all these cameras seem to look the same and seem to do the same things, right? And you've got $1,200. So you can make a $1,200 mistake and greatly regret it if you don't pick the right thing. And most companies charge you a restocking fee if you want to return the camera, so they charge you at least 15% for purchasing this camera, and that'd be money that you lost if you bought something that you didn't need and tried to take it back, right? So for example, this camera is a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 4K. Bought this camera for $1,200 just for the body, $1,200 just for the body with no lens, right? So if you spent your entire Donnie check and bought one of these, it came in the mail, you would be severely disappointed because it took me at least another $1,600 to make this camera functional, right? So that's a $2,800 investment for a camera that seemingly only costs $1,200 to make it functional, if that makes sense, right? So this isn't a mistake that I would want you guys to make. That's why I'm making this video, so you can choose what ultimately it is that you need, so you don't just go out and buy whatever and you don't go home severely disappointed, right? This video is not for shooters who already have equipment. This video is for people who are just getting into the industry and who have never purchased a camera for themselves, ideally, right? So the cameras that I'm recommending are starter cameras that I think could help you start to develop content, build your brand, or even start shooting if that's something that you're interested in. Things that you guys want to look for when you're investing in a camera, I'll start out with the body of lenses that this camera ultimately can take. So most cameras have a native mount, whether it be micro four thirds, which is a smaller mount, which can technically take just about any lens out there on the market, a Canon mount, which typically only takes Canon glass, a Nikon mount, which normally only takes Nikon glass, a Leica mount, which typically only takes Leica glass, or a Sony E-mount camera that can take just about any lens on the market, right? So when you're buying into a camera, you're buying into a family of lenses, right? So typically Nikon glass isn't that expensive, so you can get nice newer lenses for it, or you can use old mechanical film lenses that maybe your grandparents used or even your parents back in the day, and mount them on the camera. For using something like this Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera that has a micro four thirds mount, I can use just about any lens out there on the market with like a $10 to $15 adapter, right? Why is this important? Because if you were to go out and buy a Leica camera for $1,200 and think, oh, I'm golden, I'm good to go, well, the lenses you end up purchasing are going to be somewhere between $1,500 to $3,000 a pop, right? So the investment that you made in the camera is less than what you're going to end up spending on glass and lenses. Whereas if you bought a micro four thirds camera or a Nikon camera or a Canon camera, those lenses would be more so affordable, right? So you're buying into one of these camera bodies, you're buying into a family of lenses, and you also want to check the prices of the lenses that you could potentially buy as well, because that's going to ultimately be a part of the investment in the future, if that makes sense. So first thing, the lenses that you could potentially get for that camera. And then secondly, the next thing that you should look into is the quality of photo or video that you can get from said camera, right? Every camera has a megapixel count, which is the number of pixels that it can capture per photo, right? Depending on what you want to do with the photos, between 12 and 16 is fine if you're just posting to the gram or social media or things of that nature. If you want to actually print your work, you're going to make sure that it's around 24 megapixels or higher. And that's something to consider as well if you guys are going to get into photos. Am I going to be printing my work? So a higher megapixel count would be of more value to you. Then when we're talking about video, pretty much 1080p between 24 to 60 frames is all you need in today's day and age. Everybody feels like I need 4K or I need 6K. Most of you guys are watching videos on your YouTube channel, you're probably watching this in like 480p or even 360p, which is disrespectful. Please don't do that. We work very hard to shoot these things in 4K, whatever. Anyway, quality of the video that you get. You want to make sure that the camera has a decent megapixel count for photos, and then for video, you want to make sure that it at least has 1080p 24 frames per second, and then 60, so you could also include slow-mo. 4K is also a plus, but most computers can't even play it back, and most computers definitely can't edit it. So that's also something to consider if you're not running proxies. So body of lenses that you could potentially have, megapixel count, and then the quality of video. Next, I would want to make sure if you guys are vlogging or if you're doing any type of instructional video where you're talking, that camera has a mic input so that you can plug in an external mic. The preamps and microphones that are installed in most consumer cameras aren't great, so you won't sound great. Vice versa. So that's also something to consider. Another thing to think about is if you're going to walk around and handhold the camera and talk to it, you want the camera to have what we call IBIS, in-body image stabilization, which basically means if you're holding the camera out and your camera shaking, it's going to try to smooth out that motion and give you a steadier shot. So that's important for you guys who expect to walk around with your cameras or whatever of the sort. And lastly, what you need to be concerned with is battery life. How long does the battery typically last? If you're shooting weddings, you want a battery that lasts for quite some time, or you want extra batteries, you want to see how much those are. This battery in this camera only lasts me for about 20 minutes, so it's pretty much useless for me in its current state. And then your SD cards. What is this camera recording to? Do I need expensive SD cards? Am I going to need CFast cards? Am I going to need an SSD to shoot with it? Whatever of the sort. Another thing to think about is your autofocus, right? Canon has phenomenal autofocus. Autofocus basically means that whatever you point your camera at, wherever you set that point, how quickly and how accurately is your camera going to focus on that one thing or your subject. If you're vlogging, this is going to be extremely important for you guys. If you're a filmmaker, you'll probably get used to manually focusing. For some people, autofocus is extremely important. Sensor size is important, but not starting out, so we're not going to talk about that. Most of what I'm recommending today are either APS-C size sensors or micro four thirds sensors. So all these things come into play and factor into how you're ultimately going to use the camera, and they're all important things. So what I've done is I've gone through a list of cameras that are under $1,200 and narrowed them down by their price. So for the first two cameras that I recommend, these are cameras that are $600 and below. That is half of that Donnie given check, right? So not the full $1,200. This is for the novice who wants to start out and you just want a camera to practice and learn and shoot on that you can potentially vlog on or whatever of the sort, right? So the first camera that I want to recommend is the Panasonic G7. This is a micro four thirds camera, which has a very small sensor, but the benefit of it being micro four thirds is you can use any lens in the world as long as you purchase a cheap adapter. And it comes with two lenses, a 64 gig card, a carrying case, and it also has a mic input, so you guys can plug a shotgun mic into it for your vlogs. So it shoots in 1080, 4K, and 16 megapixel photos, which is decent enough for 8x10 photos. I want to say 16x20 as well. But it's more of a video camera if this is something you guys are interested in. It has a flip LCD screen. It has a mic input, so you guys can get clear and clean audio, and it is decently affordable. It comes with two lenses, an SD card, and a carrying case, all for the wonderful price of $497.99. That is $500, ladies and gentlemen. That'll give you 4K quality, 16 megapixel images, and two lenses that'll give you a decent enough range to cover everything that you would need to do with it starting out. And it has a mic input. So I greatly recommend this camera, which is a Panasonic G7. You get a 14 to 42 millimeter lens and a 45 to 150, which covers all of the ranges that you will potentially need starting out. And it comes with everything you need: SD card, carrying case, and two lenses, and it's only $500. So you guys still technically have $700 to blow or do whatever with. You can potentially buy more to build this camera out. So if you want to throw a bit more money on top of that, I would recommend the Canon EOS M50. Why? Because this camera comes with a shotgun microphone and has a mic input, so you can mount a microphone on top of it. It's lightweight. It has a flip LCD screen so you can see yourself. It comes with a lens. It'll shoot in 4K, and it has great autofocus. So if you extend this camera out and point it at yourself, your face will stay in focus as you're vlogging and talking to it. And this camera also gives you 24 megapixel photos, which is even better than 16, so you can print larger scale images and the image quality will be better. Everybody praises Canon for their color science, so right out of the camera the colors look phenomenal, which require less post-processing for you guys. So I would recommend this camera for $100 more because it gives you better autofocus and also better lens choices after you purchase an adapter. So I would recommend this camera over the last because it has better photo quality, better autofocus, and it already comes with a shotgun mic and SD card. All you guys will have to buy is a tripod to hold it and or a gimbal to hold with it. And Canon has beautiful, beautiful images and beautiful color as well. So the first camera was a Panasonic G7 at $500. If you want to go up, the next camera will be a Canon M50 for $600, which is phenomenal for vlogging. If you guys want to move up to a bit better quality and also throw another $100 of that Donnie check at a camera for $700, I recommend the Panasonic G85, which is similar in family to the first camera I talked about at $500, but this one is $700. So what the G85 has over the G7 is in-body image stabilization, which means that the camera is steady when you guys walk or run with it or try to carry it. It also has weather sealing, which means when shooting in a wet environment, dust or sand or things like that doesn't get into the ports. And it also has an unlimited recording limit, so you can shoot for as long as you want, as opposed to the G7 where you're capped out at 29 minutes. So for those of you who are greatly invested in video, I would recommend a camera like this. It's a Micro Four Thirds mount, but you can also throw in just about any lens that you possibly want onto this camera and it'll look phenomenal. It also gives you picture profiles that's a little more detailed. I'm not gonna talk about that right now, right? So $500 for the Panasonic G7, $600 for the Canon M50, $700 for the Panasonic G85. Surprisingly though, the Canon camera still has better autofocus than the both of them, right? Better autofocus than both of them. So we're gonna bump it up another $100. So if you guys want to spend $800 on a camera, I know that sounds like a lot and it sounds like a big investment, but in the camera world, it's really not, surprisingly. The next camera that I want to talk to you guys about is a Fujifilm X-T200, which has 24.2 megapixels, which would give you a phenomenal image if you want to print or even just post to Instagram. The cool thing about Fuji is they have this very old nostalgic look and feel when you get your images, and also the way the camera is structured. Big thing to think about when you're purchasing these cameras is form factor. How do you want your camera to feel? Do you want it to be large and bulky with a pretty decent grip, or do you prefer to have something small and low profile? Right? So another thing for you to consider is the form factor and how does the camera feel to you. Most guys prefer like a bigger, beefier grip. And some people who want to keep it low profile, just have a camera on them at all times, prefer something simple and small like this Leica that you can just hide in the bag and nobody even know that you have it. So the form factor of the Fuji is completely different from the others. It's smooth and it looks like an old school film camera, and it even comes in these funky colors, which is pretty cool as well. But for $800, you get 24.2 megapixels. The camera has an APS-C size sensor, which means that it's larger than your Micro Four Thirds, which means less noise as well when you're shooting in low light situations. That's another thing to factor in. It has in-body image stabilization. It's not great, but it has it. And then as far as lens choices go with this Fujifilm, Fuji has decent lenses and they're not too expensive, but that's something to think about. I don't think you can mount a Canon lens on a Fuji camera. There may be an adapter out there, but to the best of my knowledge, I haven't seen one. There might potentially be one. But this is a great camera as well that will be decent for video. Shoots 1080p in different codecs as well as 4K, and it gives you some really great looking footage. So I'd recommend this camera for $800 for people who are more so photography based. So now we're gonna make the jump to $900. $900, which is almost all of your Donnie checks, unfortunately, but it is a really good deal. I don't know how long this is going to be up, and it's a really solid camera for both photo and video. I am talking about the Sony a6500. So for $900, which this is unheard of for this camera, this is a real deal, and it's on B&H Photo. So for $900, you get a Sony a6500 with a 16 to 50 millimeter lens, which is a decent starter kit lens, especially for vlogging if that's something you guys want to do. Comes with a case, extra battery, and an SD card. So virtually for this $900, you will get everything that you needed to start shooting. And I'm telling you, this is a really, really good camera, and this is a hell of a deal because normally this camera runs for $1,500, but currently it's on sale for $900. So I would recommend the Sony a6500 to anyone who wants to shoot instructional videos. Vlogging, it doesn't have a flip out screen, so you'd have to get another monitor. Anyone who wants to get into shooting films, short films, things of that nature, it's a great camera. And then also if you want to shoot like portraits, real estate photos, landscape, anything of the sort. It's 24 megapixels, which is decent and pretty much all you need. So for $900, this is unheard of for this camera. I would greatly recommend buying the Sony a6500 with the 16 to 50 millimeter lens from B&H. This deal is only on bnhphoto.com. But I greatly recommend this camera. It gives you 1080p and 4K video and in-body image stabilization in different picture profiles, so you guys can get more dynamic range out of your image. So when I say dynamic range, I basically mean the amount of information that your camera can capture from the brightest whites in your frame to the darkest blacks in your frame. So this is a phenomenal deal, the Sony a6500 with the lens, with an SD card, with a battery, and with a carrying case. It's normally $1,500 and it is currently $898, which would be $900 essentially. So this is the camera that I pretty much recommend overall. The next camera that I would recommend if you guys want to spend $1,000. If you want to spend $1,000 of Uncle Donnie's money, I recommend buying a Sony a6400, which is technically one step below the a6500. And normally it's cheaper, but because the a6500 is on sale, this one's more expensive. The reason why I recommend the a6400 over the a6500 is because it has a flip up screen, not a flip out, a flip up screen so you can still see yourself. It has a mic input so you guys can still talk to the camera and vlog with it. It's newer, so it gives you a better video codec and quality, and it has a better autofocus than the a6500. Its battery life is also better as well. So the a6400 is a camera that's more so suited to vloggers, photographers, and also people who want to be in the film industry or start shooting films as well. It gives you beautiful 4K quality video and then phenomenal 1080 as well. Most of you should probably shoot at 1080. It gives you great images, and it has a flip up screen instead of flip out. It flips up so you can see yourself and vlog with it if you want to. The a6400 and a6500 are very similar. I would recommend the a6400 for its autofocus and its flip up screen. The a6500 for its IBIS, so the camera stays steady, it doesn't shake much when you're walking with it, and then also it's cheaper and it comes with more gadgets. So a6500 more often than not, if you're a vlogger, a64. So 65 instructional videos, someone who wants to shoot films, 64 vlogger and anyone who wants to see themselves, or anyone who's shooting like sports or something that's moving extremely fast, 6400. So I'm gonna stop there. There are a lot of other phenomenal cameras, but I think that list is a decent body of starter cameras that would work for you guys. I don't see a point in grabbing any camera that's close to $1,200 because then you don't have any money for anything extra to add on to it. Let's say, for example, if you wanted to buy the Panasonic G7, which was just $500, you could get a gimbal with the camera for $350. So you now can get nice, smooth motion and movement shots, which will be phenomenal. So instead of just spending $500 or instead of just spending $1,200 on one camera, you get a $500 camera plus a $350 gimbal for $850. You could then buy a tripod for $20, $870. So you have a camera, tripod, and gimbal, $870. You can throw in a microphone for $40 to $60. So let's say $920 roughly, right? So now you have $920 that you just spent. You got a camera, 2 lenses, a gimbal, a tripod, and a microphone, and you literally have a professional setup and you are good to go. And you still haven't spent the whole $1,200, and you've got a full shooter's kit and you're good to go for right around $1,000. So things to think about. So each one of the cameras that are listed is another $100 tier. So depending on the amount of the investment that you want to make, I'd say pick a camera based on that, whatever $100 range you're comfortable with. But I think all of these cameras would do wonders for you guys starting out vlogging or shooting in general, right? And it's not just you throwing money at a device that you're going to take family photos with. You're throwing money at a device that can ultimately change your life. The camera that I'm shooting on right now has literally taken me around the world and back. And I'm a kid from small town Palestine, Texas, right? Who, like, Tyler, Texas was a vacation for us growing up. And I've been to the other side of the world calling my grandma at 10 a.m. over there and it's 10 p.m. over here, right? There's no better feeling. Literally, you could be purchasing something with this Donnie check that could change your life and bring income to your family and become an asset, right? I also want to preface this and say, don't buy this camera if you're just going to throw it in the closet. Don't purchase this thing if you're not going to do anything productive with it. Don't waste that Donnie money if this thing isn't going to serve you in any real capacity, right? You're making this purchase to ultimately benefit yourself, benefit your family, or even have a creative outlet, right? Don't waste this money on something that you're not going to use. So please, if you make this purchase, you make this investment, move on it, do something with it, and don't just let this sit in the closet and collect dust. I look, you want to preface this and say that I never, ever pay for a camera outright. I'm a firm believer in financing a camera, which is one of the luxuries that we have living in the States, living in the US, right? So I'll go to Best Buy, have a Best Buy credit card, put the entire camera on a Best Buy credit card, and as long as I pay it off in a year, there's no interest whatsoever. So I'm buying a money-making tool with no money down. As long as I pay it off in the year, they don't charge me any interest. If I want to buy a $1,200 camera, that's a $100 payment a month. I probably spend more than that at Whataburger a month, I'm not gonna lie to you, right? But if you want to start a business doing this and you can't make $100 a month to pay off the camera, then what are you doing? Literally, I think that's probably the best way to go about it. But we have these Donnie checks, you have the money. So if you want to, go ahead and bang it out, pick one of these cameras. But me personally, I would never actually purchase a camera outright in full. I always finance them and it builds my credit. So as long as you're responsible, I recommend financing. If you're not, don't even consider that. Just go ahead and break this Donnie check off. Continue. So if you guys want an entire kit, I recommend buying the Panasonic G7 for $500. And then you can buy a gimbal for $350, microphone, tripod, and you're golden if you want the whole kit. If you just want to invest in camera, lenses, SD card, and batteries, I say pick any of those cameras on the list that you're comfortable with that amount being, right? I think like all those cameras are pretty stable, great to start out with, and they do well for you guys in a video sense. The Canon and Fuji cameras and Sony are better for photos if that's something that you're interested in as well. So you got $1,200, go do something with it. I'm not saying spend the whole thing on a camera, but if you want to, pick one of these and you're good to go.